There was a day not too long ago where I sat at our kitchen table after we'd finished for the day and I just didn't move. My one son had gone to his room, the other son had started gaming, and the dishes were in the sink, and dinner needed to be prepped. My laptop was in front of me, my phone was face up next to it. But I just kind of sat there and did nothing. And I think that you can predict what happened next. It wasn't any kind of external disaster. It was just kind of this small voice in the back of my head. This voice that showed up and almost immediately said, "You should be doing something. You could be planning tomorrow. You could be cleaning the kitchen. You could be prepping dinner. You could be doing literally anything other than sitting here." And I closed my laptop and I didn't clean the kitchen. And I kind of sat there for a minute with the voice and I thought, where did you come from? How long have you been here? And why do I believe you? Welcome to Continuing Education, a podcast for homeschooling families with actually useful information. I'm Heidi, and today we're doing our inclusive devotional. And if you're new here, that's when we take a minute to ponder a topic in order to rest, inspire, or motivate us. We don't rely on a specific religion. Instead, we pull from various news, research, and cultures around the globe. So let me tell you about where I started thinking about this concept. It was actually a couple months ago when I took my kiddo to the doctor. We were at the doctor, and my son needed a prescription for something. We're literally still in the exam room, and I get a text from our pharmacy letting us know that our prescription was at the pharmacy. Great. That meant that the doctor had done it on our computer and sent it over there, and that's wonderful. That means it'll be ready available immediately. And then a few minutes later, I got another text. Mind you, we are still in the exam room. We have not yet walked out because we needed an additional test. So we haven't even left the doctor's office yet. I get another text indicating that the prescription was ready for pickup. Now, normally I might think, wow, this is so efficient and I can just swing by the pharmacy and pick this up. But what I actually thought was, life is almost too busy when every moment of our day is so planned. And I was thinking back to when I was growing up, my mom was parenting me. When we would go to the doctor back in the day before cell phones were a thing and before all this electronic stuff happens, it might take all day for a doctor's visit and a prescription pickup. We'd go to the doctor, we'd wait, we'd go into the doctor, and that, of course, would take its own time, but then they would give us a piece of paper and we would take it to the pharmacy and we would sit there right? We would browse the magazine, or I would be bored as a kid and kind of look at something to think about or count or whatever. And that kind of event would take all day. And now it's like this compressed thing that happens in the middle, almost like, this one of 20 things you have to do that day. And so I want to name something honestly, because I don't think that it gets named enough among parents in general, but homeschool parents, I think, carry a particular kind of weight. And it's not just the weight of teaching, the lesson plans, the curriculum decisions, the nagging question of whether your kiddo is on track or not. There's something underneath all that, the weight of having chosen this, of choosing what can feel like a hectic time frame where everything needs to be planned. When you know that the world is watching, even just a little bit, right? You've got in-laws or parents or siblings or doctors or whatever that you're feeling nervous about, that they're judging you, and that you signed up for something that you have to somehow keep justifying. Are you doing enough? Are they getting enough? Are you, as a parent, enough? And because those questions come at us from the outside, from family members, from strangers at the grocery store, from the internet, we eventually stop waiting for them from outside. We start asking them ourselves. And every slow day starts to feel like evidence of something gone wrong. Every moment of stillness that we have almost feels a little stolen, because every time you close your lesson planner and you just sit, that voice shows up. You should be doing something. And the truth is, this isn't unique to homeschoolers. Like I said, I think a lot of parents feel this, but I think we feel it, and I think we as homeschoolers feel it in a specific way because we chose this. And somewhere along the way, the choosing somehow becomes like a debt. Like permission to rest has to be earned over and over again. Like your right to exist in your own life, if you're tired, uncertain, or doing your very best, though imperfect, somehow has conditions attached to it. And so I just want to talk about a few voices that I have read and learned about that I feel like is helping me. This is something I'm actively working on because I haven't figured it out on my own. But I want to bring in some voices that have helped me to kind of like soothe that voice. And the first voice I want to bring in is Mary Oliver. She is an American poet, and she has spent most of her life paying close attention to the natural world, to geese, grasshoppers, and early morning light, and writing about what she found there. She died in 2019, and she left behind one of the most quietly radical bodies of work I've ever read. But there's one poem in particular called Wild Geese, and I want to read it to you. So let me pull that up. Give me just one moment here. Okay. Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. And I've wrote that poem multiple times. I really love the concept of you do not have to be good. And that first line kind of stops me as I've read it, because it's not saying that you're off the hook from anything, that you don't have consequences. It's not telling you to stop trying or that you're trying too hard. It's saying that your worth is not based upon a performance, that you don't have to earn your place because you already have one. You are announcing your place in the family of things. The wild geese aren't auditioning for their spot in the sky. They're just going home. Over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. You have a place, not because you have to justify it, not because you have to earn your way, not because you provide some kind of productive value, but because you exist. Now I want to take us somewhere very different. About 2,500 years ago in ancient China, a philosopher named Lao Tzu wrote a small book called Tao Te Ching. It's one of the most translated books in history, which tells you something about how much I think it resonates with people. But at the center of the concept, it's called Wu Wei. And Wu Wei is actually a key concept within Taoism. It refers to the serene acceptance of events. So it's usually translated as effortless action or non-striving, and I don't know that it means to do nothing. It's not necessarily laziness dressed up as philosophy. The best way I've heard it explained is this. Imagine the difference between a rower and a sailor. The rower forces every inch, while the sailor puts up the sail and works with the wind rather than against it. Both are moving. One is exhausted by it. And Lao Tzu wrote this. Less and less do you need to force things until finally you arrive at non-action. When nothing is done, nothing is left undone. I really, really love that. I'm going to read it again because I feel like this quote really hits me in a way. Less and less do you need to force things until finally you arrive at non-action. When nothing is done, nothing is left undone. And I don't know all the science behind it, but that line has sat with me for a long time. When nothing is done, nothing is left undone. It sounds like this paradox, but what I think he means is that when we kind of stop cluttering our lives with frantic doing, when we allow ourselves to kind of just be present without constantly forcing things into shape, there's something that kind of settles inside us. The sailor gets where the rower is going, but with less wreckage, right? On a slow day, when nothing is happening and the lesson planner is closed and your work is done or maybe undone and the voice shows up, that Tuesday, that random day, is not evidence that you're failing. Sometimes that day is just the wind working, that you're kind of working with the wind rather than against it. The last place I want to take us is Southern Africa. There is a philosophy, and I hope I say this right, called Ubuntu. It comes from the Bantu languages spoken by tens of million people across the continent. The most common translation is, I am because we are. Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who spent his life working for justice in South Africa, described Ubuntu this way, and I want to read his words exactly because they're better than any paraphrase I could offer. He said, "It is not I think, therefore I am. It says rather, I am human because I belong. I participate, I share." In the Ubuntu worldview, you don't have to earn your humanity by producing. You don't justify your place by achieving. You belong because you belong. Your existence, your presence in the lives of the people around you, your kiddos, your family, that is what makes you a person, not your output, not your productivity, and not how many boxes you checked this week. I think about this sometimes when I play Minecraft with my kiddos. There is, there's if you've ever played Minecraft, there are different characters in a village where there's like, I can't even think of their names right now, but there are different people that do different things and you could trade with them and they all have different jobs. But there's one character dressed in like a green robe, depending on the biome that you're in. He's a nitwit. He doesn't have a job. He's not productive. He sleeps in, he walks around. And my son and I have very different perspectives on what to do with the nitwit, because the nitwit feels like, well, they're not being productive. Why are they part of this village? My son loves the nitwit. He will protect the nitwit. He says, the nitwit, you don't have to do anything. Meanwhile, I'm thinking, well, if he doesn't have a job, then what is he doing for me? And so this concept of like, do we have to be productive? Do we have to have a job? Do we have to produce something in order to be of value? Do we have to get enough stuff done in order to be of value? And the answer is, of course not. But I think about this in the context of homeschooling, and it can be hard because the most important thing you are doing, the irreplaceable, unmeasurable, completely unquantifiable thing, is being there and showing up and consistently trying. And you being the person that your kids come to, even when home is also school, even when you're tired, even on the Tuesdays when nothing worked, that's really not nothing, right? What you're doing is all of it. Being there, striving, trying, teaching, failing, and then trying again. These are all three different traditions: a poet from Ohio, a philosopher from ancient China, a theologian from South Africa. They're all kind of pointing at the same thing, which I think is really remarkable. You are allowed to just be, not because you earned it and not because you hit your goals or you drank enough water or you actually worked out today or you delivered enough curriculum or you did the worksheets or you had a good week. You're allowed to just be, because existing and belonging and showing up, those are not the lesser things that you do between the real work. They are the real work. And that voice that shows up when you close the lesson planner or when you close your laptop, it's not telling you the truth. If you want to bring any of this conversation in with your kiddos this week, here are a few things that might open something up. So I'm going to give you just some conversation starters for your kids. Maybe for younger kids, you could say, what's your favorite thing to do just because it makes you happy? Not because it's for school or because someone asked you to, and let them tell you, and then you can tell them yours. If you have older kids, you can continue on and you can say, do you ever feel like you have to earn the right to rest? Like rest has to be deserved? And you can see where that conversation goes. You might really be surprised. For any age, you can read the Mary Oliver poem. I love all of her poems. I was a big poem gal when I was little. You don't have to explain it or introduce it, just read it, then ask them which line stood out. They don't have to get the same message that you got from it or that I got from it. You don't have to push, just kind of wait. I found that kids hear that poem in ways I don't expect, and they'll tell you if you just give them a minute, or they may not, and that's okay too. Another thing that you could ask your kid is, tell me about a moment this week when you really felt like yourself. Not necessarily a proud moment or an achievement, just a moment of being, of who they truly were. And you might be surprised at who they see themselves. I just want to close by saying you are in the family of things. You have always been in the family of things. And the slow days that you have, or days where you feel like you're kind of trudging uphill and you're not getting anything done, they're not evidence against you or that you're doing a bad job. And the voice that you hear that tells you to do more or somehow justify yourself more or earn more, that voice is just noise and it's not wisdom. It's not even your voice really. It's really something that you picked up along the way and you've been carrying it around. So you can set it down, even if it's just for the day. Just set that voice down. Everything from today, from Mary Oliver's Wild Geese poem to Lao Tzu's book and Archbishop Tutu writing. It's all in the show notes, along with some of those conversation ideas for your kiddos, and a few ways to sit with this a little longer if you're interested in thinking about this topic some more. Thank you for being here. I'll talk with you next time. If this is something that hit you, please subscribe to our Substack. It's homeschoolce.substack.com. Like and subscribe wherever this podcast is. Thanks again. I'll chat with you next time.